Yes, Judge, I have a motion to strike one of the jurors. It was brought to my attention yesterday that during portions of testimony yesterday, one of the jurors was sleeping for an extended period of time and to the point of nodding off and then jerking awake. Both sides have a right to a fair trial, which includes juries that are attentive. I'm looking at Wisconsin Supreme Court case, State v. Novi, 346 Wisconsin 2nd, 289. It could, if there's a conviction, the defense could also try to argue that it violated defendant's right to fair trial. So obviously we want jurors who are paying attention to the evidence. So it's a two-step inquiry. One, it's a fact determination whether the juror was actually inattentive to the point of potentially undermining the fairness of the trial. And two, whether there's, this is the appellate review standard, if there's prejudice as a result.
Which juror?
4021.
Judge, we don't agree. I'm not looking at them, so I don't agree with the factual basis.
Mr. Anderson, if you want to pursue the matter further, you'll have to provide a witness.
State calls Investigator Schultz.
Investigator, please stand, raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Please have a seat in the witness chair. Mr. Anderson.
You've already testified, but can you state your first and last name?
John Schultz.
And were you present throughout testimony yesterday?
Yes, sir.
At portions of the trial, were you watching the jury?
I was.
Was there a specific point during trial period of time, I should say, where you noticed a concern about whether a juror was paying attention?
Yes.
What did you notice?
I observed one of the jurors with her head down and would startle up with her head on numerous occasions.
What kind of time period, if you can recall? Was it like 10-minute time period, half hour, longer?
About an hour.
And she was dozing off and appearing to startle awake?
Yes.
Multiple times?
Yes.
And from reviewing our jury list in our office, we believe that to be juror 4021.
Correct.
Nothing else, Judge.
Mr. Nelson.
What time did this occur?
I can tell you during what portion of the trial, sir, but I don't recall the time. I apologize.
Just yesterday this happened and you don't know what time it was when it happened?
Correct. I can tell you the portion of the trial.
Let's start from there. During which witness?
Lieutenant Hart.
And during Lieutenant Hart's direct exam or cross-exam?
It would have been during her direct exam.
And that was the before the video or after the video?
During the video.
So was it during the exam or during the playing of the video?
I apologize. I think I'm getting confused. It was during the playing of the video.
Was it at any time other than during the playing of the video?
Not that I observed.
When you made these observations, you were sitting next to attorneys representing the state?
Yes.
Did you make note to them, pass a note, give an elbow, whisper in an ear?
No, I told them after or during a break.
So you made this observation while it was happening and you just, for lack of a better term, sat there and let it happen?
Yes,
Didn't bring it to the attorney's attention?
I did during the break.
When you say the break after the playing of the video?
I believe so, yes.
Was there a discussion about whether the state thought the juror was on the state side or the defense side?
No, sir.
What was that discussion? Who did you tell?
During the break, I just told the attorneys that I observed a juror who I believed was sleeping. But I noted that I believe she was sleeping and not just closing her eyes because of her head quickly coming up like you would when you startle from waking.
And did you, at the time you didn't, your estimate of the time is, fair to say, rough?
Yes, sir.
You, during the actual live testimony from Brandy Hart, you didn't make an observation of any of this, correct?
Yes, sir.
It was,
Correct.
it was only during the playing of the video?
Correct.
It was only during a portion of the playing of the video?
Correct.
And your observation was just as you said, she had her chin tilted forward towards her chest at a couple of times during the playing of the video?
Yes, sir. Her chin tilted, eyes closed, and then head would come up quickly.
And when her chin was down and her eyes would close, would that last for a moment, or would that last for 10 minutes, or you don't know?
I was not watching her over 10 minutes, so I would say a moment.
Okay. So her chin would go down for a brief moment, and then she would bring her head right back up. That's what you observed.
Yes, sir.
You didn't look over and see her chin down with her eyes closed, and then look over and see her chin down with her eyes closed, and then look over and see her chin down with her eyes closed. Agreed?
Sorry, I think I'm getting confused. Yes, that is what I would see.
I'm trying to figure out this, whether or not you observed her chin down, eyes closed, and she stayed in that position for some continued period of time, or whether you observed her chin go down, there was a startled moment, her chin would come up, or whether you saw something else.
I understand what you're saying now. So I was intermittently looking over, and during that period of time, there was times where I would just see her chin down, eyes closed. I would look back, and it would be that way, and then I would see her startle with her head up.
So you're not in a position to tell the court the length of time that you observed her to have her chin down with her eyes closed? Meaning...
Continuous? No, sir.
All right, you don't know whether that was for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 minutes, you can't say.
Correct.
You just essentially noticed it a couple of times.
Correct.
And by a couple, 2 to 3, is that fair?
I'd say 4 to 5.
Okay. And of those 4 to 5 times, half of them were you saw her with her chin down and she didn't make a response, and half of them were when she had her chin, you saw her make this, what you've called a startled reaction up.
Yes, sir.
Would that be a fair estimate?
That would be fair, yes.
And the times that you saw her with her chin down and eyes closed, it was again just a brief glance, you weren't dialed in focusing on her, agreed?
Yes,
You agree with that?
I do agree.
Nothing else?
Mr. Anderson?
So the 4 or 5 times, is that when you saw the head jerk?
It was both. At times I would look over and she just chin down, eyes closed. And then I would look over again and I would see that and then see the head jerk.
And did you see that for what period of time approximately from when you first noticed that till the end? Was it half-hour period of time, 45 minutes, hour?
Approximately over an hour.
Were there, when you looked over, if you recall, was it one of those two states, or were there several times where you looked over and she did appear to be alert?
Those were the only times that I had looked over.
So when you looked over during that period, it was either chin down or startling awake?
Yes,
Nothing else?
You said it was only during the playing of the video. Agreed?
yes,
You understand that the video was less than an hour, correct?
approximately an hour, yes, sir.
It's about 50 minutes.
Yes, sir.
So based upon that, you couldn't have been observing this for over an hour. Agreed?
I object that we played it for 56 minutes.
The record's,
56 minutes.
it wasn't over an hour. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
And you can't tell the judge during those 56 minutes when you made the first observation. Agreed?
Agreed.
So you don't know if it was 15 minutes into the video, 30 minutes into the video? You can't say.
I cannot give an exact time, no, sir.
And all you do is, you said you saw it about this 4 or 5 times, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
And you're not in a position to say whether her head was down for any continuous period of time. Agreed?
Agree.
That's all, Judge.
Thank you, Detective.
Thanks, Judge.
Down. Is there anything else you want to say in support of your motion?
Judge, the video is obviously very important for the state's case. It was only played once. Clearly, we don't have enough time to play it again in closing, given the length of it. That would be our entire closing argument. Both sides are entitled to a fair trial with an attentive jury. So I think I'd ask that the court strike Juror 4021 as one of the alternates.
Mr. Nelson?
I don't think they've established a factual basis that she was sleeping. I think that there's reason to believe, but I don't think that they've established a factual basis of that.
I tend to agree. There are some clues to suggest that the juror may have been nodding off, but there's certainly nothing conclusive, certainly nothing that would allow me to make such a significant finding. I'll say, for my part, I was scanning the juror from time to time during the playing of the video as well. And my eyes were not fixed on them the entire time, obviously, because I'm trying to pay attention to the video, but I also was watching the jurors. I did not notice anything that would suggest somebody was sleeping. I have a different perspective than others. I'm not saying mine's better, it's just different. I did notice a number of occasions where people were looking down because they were writing on their notes, or they were averting their eyes, but they weren't sleeping. So I just say that to point out that there can be other alternative explanations for certain observations. The other point, too, is that even if we did have a sleeping juror, and even if that juror slept the entire presentation of the jail interview, it is a recorded interview. And if that juror ends up being one of the 12, that juror has the ability to request to watch the video. So it's not like live testimony that is lost forever. This juror, if they make it to the deliberation room, has the ability to view the video again and take that into consideration as part of her deliberations. So for those reasons, the request is denied. Is there anything else?